Hello, you folks out there in YouTube land. Thrash Pondo here, and I did a systems check before I went live, so I'm really hoping this microphone is actually working. As those of you who watched my Thundar post, the sound quality did not meet expectations. Had far, far worse, but it's another one of my infamous production demons, of which, well, I'm all used to it by now. But anyway, I'm so glad to be here where so many of my previous artists have failed before me. And I'm just going to kind of wait for people to show up. Oh, shout out to my mom. Happy birthday, Mama Thrash. The big 2-9 for her. Only a half century too late, give or take. But anyway, great old joke I heard years ago. This woman who hid her age used to say that she was 29. Uh, it became like a running joke. Family and friends were always making fun of her until finally one day her son couldn't take it anymore, and he goes, "You folks are always teasing my mom about her age. Well, you know what? I believe my mom's 29 because I'm 30 and she's been 29 my whole life." And oh look, armies of followers. Let's see. Ah, Sister Sarah. Sister Sarah, you're in a very down place the other day. I hope you're feeling better. Sister Sarah's here. Says hi everyone. Hi Pawns and happy birthday, Pawns. Mom, thank you so much. Zooplex is here and says good evening to Pawns. Good evening to you too, Zoop. Sean is here. Sean says hello, Thrash Panda Pawns, and to Zoop and Sarah. Number one dude is also here. Says happy Sunday to Thrash Pondo, that's me, and Mrs. Thrash, that's the Mrs. And John Orchard is here and says, "Hey Pondo, finish the first book in my thriller series. Now we can talk." I'll try again to give you a call this week. I know I said that last week, but that was last week, and this is this week, so I'll try again this week. Jim's camera at dawn. We meet at dawn. At dawn, so great to see you. He says, "Greetings, everyone." Jim, so glad you could make it here tonight. Although I prefer to call you at dawn. A lot of people having fellowship and just skim down. Actually, so far I'm caught up. We'll see how long it lasts. But yes. Mama's Thrash birthday today. I took her to Mrs. Thrash and my favorite restaurant. She had never been there. So we took her there for lunch today and had a smashing time. Sister Sarah has given us a link to Jim's camera. Thank you so much. And drop a link for yourself too, please. Pretty please. Sugar on top. I'm just going to have a splash of this Polar Diet Grape Pop. I can't find the non-diet for the life of me. But their diet is actually pretty good. Jim says LOL. And Sarah says T Pawns. Oh, thank you. Pawns, much better. Pawns, I'm so glad. Speaking of much better, how was the sound quality tonight? Sound quality better, copacetic? I think what happened, because I didn't do a system check last time I did a post, and every time I don't do a system check, I kick myself later. I think what may have happened was it somehow went to a default speaker, and it was the crappy speaker in the personal computer, and that's all I can think of because I didn't have one on the headphones. But that is, as they say, is that. Grape is great. Yes, grape is great, everyone. And grape is good. And Sean says audio is fine. We'll see how long that lasts. And Superplex says sound quality is fine. And if Superplex is satisfied with the quality of something, that's pretty good, huh, folks? just teasing, Zoop. And let's see. Ooh, Justin is here. Hey, Justin, what's going on, my brother? Justin is here and says, hello, Thrash. Happy Sunday. Wajamin. Wajamin is here and says, hello, everyone. Wajamin, so great to see you. Welcome to the party, as always. Sister Sarah, please be a mention. Drop a link for a Wajamin. And, hello, Teb. Teb's here. I see people saying hello to Terrell, but I don't see his icon. Mr. Teb, Terrell Eugene Bellinger, if you're here, Hello, welcome to the chat. Sorry I missed your entrance, but you are always more than welcome. And let's just see. Welcome to. Oh yes, well, like I say, I didn't know. Tab, you're under the radar. Uh, Type in a couple syllables into the comment station. And so, oh, by the way, I believe it was Cindy D, possibly others as well, but I had a request for SNL trivia, which is what I've done. I've had plenty of requests for other trivias, but tonight's is going to be on the history of SNL. But it's a little early. It's only 7:30. We only have 9 people so far. Of course, if the weather is nice in your neck of the woods as it was here, I don't blame you. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous day to day. We actually had lunch on this restaurant's outer deck, and it was warm and sunny and not a cloud in the sky apart from a couple of nimbuses, and just had a great time. And Mrs. Thrash got her favorite dish there, their steak tips with the Yukon potatoes. And my mom tried it too. Actually, she loved them as well. By the way, I had a burger. I was in a burger mood today. But enough of my lunch. There's far more interesting things to talk about. For example, Sarah says, "Hit that like button and share out and comment after the show, please." And Ty, thank you. Everything she said: likes, subscribes, forwards, shares, and again comments after the fact. All of those things help me out a lot. Justin says, shortest reigning cast member must have been someone in the early 90s. Let's not give the game away, Justin. That actually might be one of the questions. Zuplik says Sarah Silverman. You might be right. You might be right. She wasn't on my hit parade, but you're probably right. Crapshoot Creations is big high five. Big high five to the live. Big high five to the live. I love it. I love it. And yes, you did make it. And Sarah, please a link for Crapshoot Creations. I love the tie dyes he's been putting together. Daryl Johnson is here. He says, "Bob, other brother Daryl, what are you doing, my man?" And he goes on to say, "Happy birthday to Mama Thrash." Um, um, Hopefully she's watching. Usually she watches live. She certainly watches in replay, but hopefully. And Denny says, "Greetings from the South Carolina." That is. Well, I didn't think you meant Southern Canada, which I'm actually very close to. Denny, it's so awesome to have you here. Please, either Sister Sarah or Denny, you drop links to all your channels. They're all great stuff. Love to see them all. I am so sorry I missed your live stream last night. You, like I said, you're gonna send me a text or something when you're going live. The restaurant was so crazy. My restaurant was so crazy busy last night. By the time I came home, I just crashed. But then he says, "Late I am." No, you're right on time. But if I had known you were going to be live last night, I would have been on there at least for the saying of hi. Justin says their news segment was the best with Dennis Miller or Norm Macdonald. Dennis Miller's was phenomenal. Of those two, I would probably give it to Norm Macdonald. His was edgier, but Dennis Miller was great. In fact, didn't they spin that off with Dennis Miller briefly? Didn't he get his own? It was sort of the precursor to the Daily Show. Didn't he get his own like mock news broadcast briefly in like 92, 93, around there? There's a bell ringing in my head, but it's probably my tinnitus. And Denny said, "Didn't figure you would be on tonight." I know. I never bothered to post my reminder to everybody because I figured they would all be there. So sorry. Glad you made it. Steve is here for the Life and Set ending. He says hi. So glad you could make it, Steve. By the way, and I think you mentioned in your Hunts Hall post that you weren't sure where you got the nickname Hunts. I think it was actually an old German expression for a hunting dog, Hunts, Huntshound, and because he had a big nose like a bloodhound, they called him Hunts. That's an educated guess, but it's the best I can do on such short notice. And everyone's saying hi. to everyone, and Sarah's giving more links, and everyone loves Steve. And Lisa Fields says, "Hi Thrash, hey everyone, I'm here." Lisa's so glad you could make it tonight. Number one dude says Miller and McDonald both funny dudes. They certainly were. They certainly were. And Sean said he had a talk show with Andy Summers as his band leader. I'm sure that's what I'm thinking of, Sean. Thank you very much. That's gotta be that's gotta be 30 years ago today. Justin says yes. Dennis was on HBO and did news. That's why I had trouble recalling it. I knew of it. We never had HBO, so that must be why I have vague recollections. I may have only saw one or two episodes when I was at a friend's house or something. Zublik says, I remember Dennis Miller was on Monday Night Football. I don't recall that, but I'll take your word for it. Not much of a sports fan, as you know. Dominic D's here says, hey, Bob. Hey, everyone. Dominic D, so great you could make it. Justin says his HBO one was hilarious. He would show pictures of empty arenas and say things like, ladies and gentlemen, Foghat. Oh, mean. Or, ladies and gentlemen, REO Speedwagon. Also mean, but I can see it. Melissa Foster's here and says, hi, Thrash Pondo and all. Melissa's so glad you could make it this ease. Mike says, hi, guys. Watching Till Clouds Could Fly on Pluto TV. Well, clouds can certainly always fly, and there will always be a Pluto TV. If Pluto means as much to you as Pluto means to me, and it is a planet. Steve says, I saw Dennis Miller live at the Desert Sand in Vegas in 1996. Cool squared. That is just so amazingly cool. Mike Silva says, E.T., phone home. Elliot laughs with joy. E.T., home, phone home. Elliot seeing his heart glowing. Does this mean they're coming? Yes. E.T., the big scene. Thank you for the link, Sister Sarah. Are we sure Tim was here? Because I saw a couple people say hi to him. I didn't notice his icon, and now it seems like we haven't seen heads and or tails of him. But anywho, oh, Lisa says she loved Dennis Miller. And Indy Spout says, what's the tribute tonight, Bob? Any chance it's on the migration patterns of the North Atlantic sponge asking for a friend? They only moved about a foot and a half. So I had one question and I just gave it away. No, it's actually in the wind speed velocity of a swallow. And all kidding aside, it's on SNL trivia. The history therein. Justin says, I prefer Chiron, Pluto's moon. You know, I knew Pluto had a moon. I learned that my father actually told me that when we were down in Florida. I believe when we were down to watch the space shuttle launch, which yes, I've seen one. I get to see one. My father read the news that Pluto, in fact, has a moon. We could have been here all day, and I would not know it was Chiron. Every time I think of Chiron, I think of one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, with Frank Gorshin and the guy from Cool Head Luke, where they're black on one side and white on the other. One of my favorite episodes. But Chiron is their home world. I believe Chiron is also in a video game from the 90s. But I digress. Kevin's got 76 is here and says, hey, Thrash, just got on, was visiting my mom. There's a lot of that going around. It was my mom's birthday today, and Mrs. Thrash and I took her to a birthday lunch. Of course, I visit my mom all the time. She lives with us. So it's always a mother and child reunion is literally, not figuratively, literally emotion away. Oh, little darling of mine. I just can't believe it so. Sorry. Shannon says SNL trivia, thank you. Zublik says yes, he was. Good. Thank you. Bernardin says tonight's trivia: the indigenous plants of Tierra del Fuego. I prefer Patagonia. Oh, and speak of the devil. Teb says I'm actually right here. Good, good. I saw some people saying hi to you earlier. Didn't notice your icon. Must have right by me. So I'm glad you shut it out to know that you're here. And hello, of course, hello. John Orchard said African or European. You must know these things when you're king. And I was praying someone would say it. And actually, we had two someones. Indie Spouts said it as well. And thank you for playing. Sister Sarah says Star Trek is the best. It certainly is. At Dawn says Star Trek number one. Yes, Star Trek number one. Star Wars a close two. And Sarah says giggle. And Kevin says end of Star Trek Discovery last season was really good. Didn't see it, but take your word for it. And Brogu says hello, Thrash. And Denny Stanton says LOL. A lot of people saying hello to Brogu. And then he says that actor in Star Trek was Lou Antonio. Thank you. Thank you. I'd seen him in some other stuff. He did one of my favorite episodes of The Monkees, one with Dub Taylor, where it's sort of a love triangle slash Hatfields and McCoy situation. But I couldn't think of his name to save my life. And thank you. And he was great in that. He was absolutely amazing. And Alive says, what about the Planet X, sometimes known as Planet Nine? Planet Nine from outer space. Ba-dum-bum. Remember, my very elderly mother just served us 9 pies. And my mother's not elderly, but you have to find something that rhymes with E. And she's not much of a baker either. But the pies is Pluto. And I shamelessly adapted that from a very funny episode of Rick and Morty. Not that they weren't. Lisa says, happy birthday, Mama Thrash. Thank you. I'm sure she's watching, and I'm sure she says thank you as well. Teb says, guess this 1976 big screen adaptation of a Stephen King classic. Carrie. From the year, but I'll continue reading. A high school misfit uses her telekinetic powers to exact revenge against her crazed, religiously devout mom and her bullies. Ever notice? And I'm not starting anything here, but I was just having a really nice conversation with somebody about this. Ever notice how the bad guys in Stephen King are almost always religious fanatics? Yeah. But yes, it's Carrie the original, and it's absolutely amazing. And I love the line says it's called telekinetics, and there's going to be some changes around here. I had to freely adapt that for my own purposes, but yes, I love Carrie, and everyone is saying Carrie. Remember, Carrie is so very. John says, "Who made you king? I didn't vote for you. You don't vote to become king." The Lady of the Lake, her arm clad in the pure shimmering samite, held aloft from the bosom of the water, Excalibur, signifying in divine providence that I, author, your king, should carry Excalibur, and that is why I became your king. Feel free to give the counterline in whatever adaptation below. And Justin says the Fury was really good too. Kirk Douglas and Amy Irving. Dublik says that episode starred Melody Patterson. It did? I'll take your word for it. Dominic D says, I remember that Monkees. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Dominic D says, I remember that Monkees episode. Wrangler Jane from F Troop was in it. Yes, Melanie Patterson. I had forgotten that was her. Very, 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 very good. Watching says, happy birthday, Mama Thrash. Melissa Foster says, I've been busy with getting our camp cleaned up so my husband and I can do some camping. Oh, this is great time for camping. Great, not too hot, not too hot. Great time for camping. Although watch those mountain streams, they're probably freezing right now. Zubuk says hello to Melissa. Shana says they're all going to laugh at you. Piper Laurie was great. They're all going to laugh at you. Remember the Adam Sandler bit where it was just like everything the kids asked for. I'm going to go to the store. They're all going to laugh at you. No, they're all going to laugh at you. It was funny when he did it. Kevin Scott says first fast food was pot pies pre-made at kitchens at the edge of medieval towns. That is a great trivia. I love that. Zublix, Denny says, always giving us a link. Thank you. Jonas says, watery tarts dispensing cutlery is no basis for a system of government or something like that. You're really close. Uh, if I claimed I was an emperor because some moistened talk threw a sword at me, they'd put me away now, wouldn't they? Shut up, you bloody peasant. Ah, now we see the violence inherent in the system. Come and see the violence inherent in the system. One of these days, I really got to go out and see that movie. And Eastbound says to Justin, I was once playing in a live trivia game where they asked for the name of the 1970s Brian De Palma film where a girl gains psychic powers. Well, I had a 50-50. You had a 50-50? That's a movie with Seth Rogen. Yeah. John says, if some watery tart loved a scimitar at me, that doesn't make me emperor. Yes, you guys got it. Um, Daryl says, "Listen, strange women lying and palms for being sword is no basis for a system of government." I knew you guys would get it. And Kevin says, "Watery tart waving a sword." And Mike says, "Indie Carrie movie." Oh, it just dawned on me. Yes, De Palma did another really strange movie back in the 70s. Oh, and yes, and I'm drawing a blank. And I was just talking about Brian De Palma as well, by the way. Well, anyway, moving forward. Denny says, I wore your shirt today on the Nostalgic podcast where I offended a guy and he left. Oops, no worries, no worries. It's getting really easy to offend. Really easy to offend people these days. Justin says, yes, Indy, I'd imagine some people would say Carrie instantly. And Mike Silva says, Danny, it's a good movie till Clouds Could Fly. It's from 1946. There's a bell ringing in my head if Clouds Could Fly. I think I keep thinking of Umbrellas of Cherbourg, though, which I used to think was a war film. Because, you war buffs out there, Umbrella Men was the German word for paratroopers. And Cherbourg was one of the key areas in the Normandy landings. So I just thought Umbrellas of Cherbourg was a reference to the Normandy invasion. Teb says, guess the 1990 big screen adaptation of a Stephen King classic and injured male romance novel was taken in and then held captive by an obsessed, crazed fan. Misery. And Teb, yes, male romance novelist. John says, yes, you guys have them better than me. And how do you know he's a king? Oh, because he said he was. Sean says, per IMBD, the line is, oh, but you can't expect a weird supreme executive power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you. We do broad strokes here. Thrash is never known for accuracy. And he says you can't expect to wield supreme executive power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you. And Melissa got misery, and Jenny's giving us a link, and Sean says blowout cousins, whatever that movie was with Margot Kidder. Is that the one? That sounds plausible. Oh, Cindy D's here says hello, everyone. SNL trivia night, Cindy, as promised. Justin says, surely Margot, you jest. Margot Kidder. Priceless. Oh my gosh. Dave is here. Dave says, hello, all. Dave, welcome to my live chat. I'm so glad I caught at least a portion of your live chat. So glad you could make it. Sean says, Sisters, the TV show from the 90s. And Danny's giving us another link to Mr. Sundstrom. Oh, by the way, Dave, I love Steve's post on Barry Corbin, too, by the way. I saw that today. And he says, Brian De Palma did Carrie and The Fury back to back, actually. Why am I not placing The Fury? I'm thinking of a totally different film. I think I'm thinking of, no, The Others is about a boy with an evil twin. Well, if I say one more word, you guys will never forgive me. I'm thinking of a different movie, which I think actually isn't even Brian De Palma. But for you people who keep plugging away, so I finally get the message, thank you. Mike Silva says, wow, Albert Bell did cork his bat, lady. When you're with me, I'm smiling. Anyway, all my rowdy friends are coming over tonight. Hank Williams Jr. And Mike Silva goes, is this a Max Fleischer cartoon? Crow said if I can remember the episode. And WD says Blowout was a great movie. Margot Kidder wasn't in it though. Yeah, Blowout wasn't that a John Travolta flick, and I can't remember who the woman in it was, but it wasn't Margot Kidder. And I didn't want to say anything because I wasn't 100%. And I was saying it wasn't Margot Kidder. Oh yes, it was. So, but yeah, but I haven't seen that movie in for Ev, for Ev. There we go. And we'll just see. Let me say hi to Dave. Kevin says my grandpa fought in Cherbourg and the push to Germany. Artillery Captain Sylvain Preston Lay. Artillery? My father-in-law, God rest, my father-in-law, he was an officer, but he was in artillery. He wasn't at Cherbourg. He was at Metz and a few other places. He arrived after D-Day. I wonder if he was maybe one of the replacements in your grandpa's company. Cindy says, hello, what do you mean? Zuber, Melissa Foster, Daryl Johnson, Dave, and D. I'm going to skim down. Mike Silva says Assault on Precinct 13. Great 70s movies. It certainly was. It's a great movie. Isn't that the one where he borrowed some of the imagery from No Living Dead? Where every time they look out, the creepy civilians were closing in on them. They're just standing there very quietly, but every time there's a few more of them. There's a bell. I've got to get another expression for I have a thought. I'm becoming redundant. Sean says, no sisters, no cousins was the Margot Kidder film I meant. No sisters, no cousins, no artillery pieces. Zubik says, T-Pons, have you seen My Left Foot yet? Yes, I actually, someone else was asking about My Left Foot earlier. Yeah, I saw My Left Foot years ago. I think I saw it when I was in college in film school. But great film, great film. Such a sad life after the events of that film took place. Cindy says, hello, Thresh. Thank you. I won't get into it but it's very, very sad. Daryl says, please hit the like button. Yes, what he said. Come on. 23 people, 11 likes. We can do better. Sean says, oops, Capluck, I really should turn the light on my office. And he says, Karen Allen, I thunk. They do look remarkably similar. They do look remarkably similar. Sean says, Nancy Allen was De Palma's girlfriend. Indy says, not Karen, the other one. Cindy says, didn't Brian De Palma do Christine? Or is that Stephen Jingle? I'm not 100% King, but I knew what you meant, Jingle. I knew you meant Stephen King. I don't think King directed it, but I don't think Brian De Palma did that one either. Not violent enough. Kevin says, I'll send you details about my grandpa so we can find out if they might have fought together. That would actually be really, really cool of you. Mrs. Thrash has some of the stuff. I would love to look into it. But thank you. That'd be awesome. And wouldn't that be great if they were in the same company? Small friggin' world. Zublik says he was the general that you referred to. I referred to a general. I'm sure it'll come back to me later. And he says John Carpenter did Chris. John Carpenter, thank you. Yes. And Cindy says thanks, Indy. Music, movies, and more with Brenda's here. He says, hey there, Thresh. And Eminem, so glad you could make it. Welcome to the party. Sean says to Indy, Karen Allen was in Animal House, Temple of Doom, Starman, and Scrooge. She certainly was. Indy says it probably would have been done better by Stephen Jingle. Stephen King, but I like Stephen Jingle. Has a nice ring to it. Stephen Jingle has a nice ring to it. Jenny's giving us another link. Oh, for Tugs. Yes, please do. And Tug did a great retrospect on them. Almost as good as mine that I did on the entertainment headquarters with Kevin. Justin says, wow, you are almost caught up with the comments at 6 minutes before the hour. I know I'm as busy as you are. Cindy says, thanks for the incidental trivia. I hope it's mostly not ready for primetime players. Those are my favorite. They feature heavily. Oh, Christopher Wilkinson's here. He says, good evening, Bob. Good evening to you, too. And Teb says, guess this 1990 made for TV adaptation of a Stephen King classic, a group of teenage outcasts known as the Losers Club reunite decades later to bring down an evil entity in the form of a clown. I'm going to guess it. Um, Zublik says, "Your stepdad." My stepdad? No, no. My father-in-law, my late father-in-law, served in World War II. I didn't have a stepdad who was a general. Oh, the colonel. No, the colonel's name was Bill, and he fought in Korea and Vietnam. And we think his exploits were wildly exacerbated by him. I think he was a REMF. Yes, an REMF. Yeah, I went there. Um, kind of a spit and polish. If you ever met the man, he was far more um tactical headquarters than actually in the field. But that's just me. And my rant has caused me to like go back a little bit. So I'm just gonna skim through oh, it's mostly just people saying hello to one another. So as oh, he says, Indy, jingle all the way. Oh, Mrs. Thrash. Kevin thinks that his grandfather may have served with your dad. And she's like, really? Yeah, he was a captain in the artillery. Fought from Cherbourg into Germany. And your father, I know at least the one battle I remember he was in was Metz, but he fought his way in as well. So he's going to send me some information. Maybe Brendan and I could cross notes. She is over the moon, Kevin. Thank you very, very much. And oh, it was it. Thank you. And I'm just gonna kind of India jingle all the way. I love that. I'm sorry. And everyone's saying hello to Mrs. Thrash. And Mike says, I was watching this video in between a movie I'm watching on Pluto TV, Kenneth and Pawns Till the Clouds Fly By. I am going to IMDb that movie when I get off this live chat. Sean says, "Where did her dad serve?" Aha. Yeah, he wasn't at the. He came in after Normandy. Possibly after the liberation of Paris. He did serve in France, but I don't know if he was at Paris. The big battle he took part in that I know was the Battle of Metz, and he was an artillery officer. By my tongue, he was an enlisted man, but he was in the artillery. Eminem says, "Good evening to Kenneth." I'm just gonna skim through, and he says, "Mike, I'd buy that for $1." I used to try to make that catchphrase actually happen, but anyway, it's 8:01, and for once, I'm actually gonna start on time. Wow, we're down to 18 people. How is that possible? 5 people bailed on us before trivia. Well, I apologize, gang, but I'm going to go ahead and start the trivia. So if you don't hear me reading I will read this one by Melissa Foster. She said, "I had a great uncle, that Navy seaman, first class in Vietnam, and returned from it disabled and in a wheelchair." I am so sorry. I am terribly sorry. Very sad. Sean says, "Just started her stream. MG started her stream, maybe." Oh, didn't even think of that. And he says, "I heard it was SNL trivia, probably." It is SNL tonight. Oh, and a lot of people are passing on commiserations. Melissa, very sorry. But anyway, I'm going to start the trivia. And yes, tonight's trivia is on SNL trivia. And as always, I shall give it in no particular order. Number 10. Before becoming an SNL staple, Adam Sandler performed characters on this short lived game show. Was it A, The Gong Show, B, Beat the Geeks, C, Couch Potatoes, or D, Remote Control? Oh, and Teb says, guess this 1980 big screen adaptation of Stephen King classic. A writer, his wife, and their young son move into a hotel where they encounter strange, disturbing things. It. Denny Stin says, trivia, aka Kryptonite for cool people. And Kevin Scott 76 says, my grandpa landed third day after D-Day, inherited his letters, diaries, pictures, maps, documents, etc. We'll put together a 250-pound book. Wow. and put together a 250-page book about his experiences. That's crazy. That is wild, amazing. Oh, and trivia. Wow, you you guys are on top of things tonight. Should I even bother to repeat it? I'm going to repeat it just for uh, standards and measures. Before becoming an SNL staple, Adam Sandler performed characters on this short-lived game show. Was it A, The Gong Show, B, Beat the Geeks, C, Couch Potatoes, or D, Remote Control? Justin says, I will guess D because everyone did. And you know what? Yes, Remote Control was the show. Colin Quinn was on that as well. And Ken Ober, I believe, was a New Englander, or at least he was living on Martha's Vineyard when he died. A friend of mine actually knew him. Number 9. This stand-up comedian, known for pushing the boundaries of good taste, featured on SNL's disastrous 1980-81 season. Was it A, Andrew Dice Clay, B, Bill Hicks, C, Gilbert Gottfried, or D, Dennis Leary? And I shall definitely repeat this one. Teb says, no, Thrash, correct answer is The Shining. What did I say? I didn't say The Shining? Did I say it again? I'm such a dumb head. I meant The Shining with in heaven there is no beer. With the woman who played Olive Oil in Popeye, Shelley Duvall, and crazy guy. You can't handle the truth. But yes, I'm sorry. I got it wrong, but I of course meant The Shining. Sorry. Good question. I shall repeat. This stand-up comedian, known for pushing the boundaries of good taste, featured on SNL's disastrous 1980-81 season. Was it A, Andrew Dice Clay, B, Bill Hicks, C, Gilbert Gottfried, or D, Dennis Leary? Yeah, and Jack Nicholson was the name that I was desperately trying to remember. Yeah, sometimes when I try to do two things at once, I mess up both. So thanks for cutting me some black. Thanks for cutting me some black. Blah 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 dang a dang dang a ding a dong ding blue blue moon. Dominic D says Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo were the only ones who survived that 80-81 season. Yes, and they almost didn't. And it's a good thing they did because they became the backbone of that second wave of success. But from what I understand, at one point they were going to let everyone go. And I forget why at the last minute they decided to keep those two, but I'm certainly glad they did. And Cindy D says, paint it black, Thrash. I see a red door and I want to paint it Thrash. And yes, the correct answer is Gilbert Gottfried. I got one out of sequence. I'm just going back to that one. Oh, no, that was in the correct sequence. We're up to number 8. Yes, number 8. According to an SNL sketch featuring a solo John Belushi, whom did he predict would be that original cast's sole surviving member? Was it A, Dan Aykroyd, B, Chevy Chase, C, Lorraine Newman, or D, himself? And I shall repeat. According to an SNL sketch featuring a solo John Belushi, whom did he predict would be that original cast's sole surviving member? Again, A, Dan Aykroyd, B, Chevy Chase, C, Lorraine Newman, or D, himself. Apparently, you guys all remember the sketch. Give another minute for some more answers to pop in. But yes, it was set supposedly in a future, I'd say like 30, 40 years later, and he's now an old man and he's going to the graves. And yes, I'll give it away. Himself. Yes, he predicted it was himself because he never stopped dancing, but all the other original members had passed on at one point or another. And of course, the true irony is he actually was the first one we lost. Dude, that was a heavy casualty. I loved him when I was a kid. And when I came home from like football practice or something. I put on the TV, and it said John Belushi's dead. I kind of went into my what hurts the most routine. He's not dead. He's not dead. He's not dead. He's dead. Wasn't quite as bad as John Lennon, which almost got me into a fight with the school bus bully, who's now a local fire chief. But he came on the bus, and I had gone to bed before the news broke, and I just gotten up, had my bowl of frosted flakes, and went to school. And he comes on the bus and says, "Yeah, John Lennon's dead." And I thought he was being an asshole. And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." Fortunately, some of the kids on the bus were like, "Yeah, no, no, Bob, he's not being a jerk this time. He really is." Sydney says, "I love the one he did with O.J. Simpson that copied SNL. Oh, Saturday Night Fever. It was called Samurai Night Fever. Oh, I remember that one. I remember that one. I loved his samurai bits. Zublick says OJ kissed Bill Murray. I did not know that. I did not know that. Oh, Mike's saying bye, guys. Mike, so glad you could make it tonight. Have a great night. I'll see you in the funny papers, as they say. Peace and chicken grease. But and Harold the Hatter Scott's here saying trying to catch up. Quite all right. So glad you could make it, Scott. And Tracy says fractured. History and more is here. Says hi, Robert. Sorry I'm late. It's quite all right, guys. It's quite all right. You missed the first couple of trivia questions. We're doing SNL trivia tonight. Definitely catch them in replay. In fact, I'm gonna repeat this last one just for you guys. And then you'll get the first two. But according to an SNL sketch featuring a solo John Belushi, whom do you predict would be that original cast's sole surviving member? Was it A, Dan Aykroyd, B, Chevy Chase, C, Lorraine Newman, or himself? Cindy says instant replay. And Lisa says, I was heartbroken when Jim Belushi died. You mean John Belushi died. It's an yeah. Jim Belushi is still with us. And the correct answer, of course, is D, himself, which I'd kind of given away when you guys were showing up anyway, but in just a total fairness, I want to at least give you a level field. Now moving on to question 7. This performer was fired for actually dropping an F-bomb during a performance. Was it A, Charles Rocket, B, Chris Rock, C, Elvis Costello, or D, Damon Wayans? I shall repeat. Wow, before I even finish the options. Cindy says, I felt in the pit of my stomach, Lisa. I'll take a bicarbonate of soda. Number 7, I repeat. This performer was fired for actually dropping an F-bomb during a performance. Was it A, Charles Rocket, B, Chris Rock, C, Elvis Costello, or D, Damon Wayans? Oh, Gary Carpenter's here. Says he's like, hey, you are in very good company. Like a half a dozen people have showed up late tonight. I think it's partly my fault. I never posted my traditional Saturday come join me tomorrow like I've been doing for months. And I have no excuse, none whatsoever. I spaced. I don't know why I didn't do it, so I'm very, very sorry. So you know what? Blame me. And Emma Miller is also with us, and she says A, and she is correct. It was Chris Rocket. And Indy says, I think Jenny Slate wasn't renewed for the exact same reason. I'm not familiar, but every time I question you, I get egg on my face. Sean says Sherry O'Terry dropped one too, but no one said anything I ever heard. Huh, I did not know that about Sherry O'Terry either. Yeah, Emily says I just got here myself. But you're always right on time, Emily. And so glad that you and Gary could make it. Now moving forward, 6, and then we'll get scores. Oh, and by the way, to all you folks who got here a little bit late, just leave those first 2 hypothetical, and you get them in replay. And Cindy's saying, hello, everyone, and hello to you too. And Denny says, I didn't see nothing on your tab, decided to take a nap. Then Sarah texted me you were on. Thank you, Sarah. And yeah, like I say, no excuse, but I didn't do a community page about this or anything on Facebook. It slipped my mind. Literally just slipped my mind. But number 6, the only Hollywood family to have three generations of members featured on SNL were the A. Aykroyds, B. Belushis, C. Murrays, or D. Elliots. And I shall repeat. The only Hollywood family to have three generations of members feature on SNL were the. A lot of people guessing the Murrays. Harold the Hatter says number 8 was what? C. Number 8, I believe, was. Oh no! According to the SNL sketch, Jim Belushi thought he would be the sole surviving member. So the correct answer was D. Waiting for Indy to answer. Gonna give you guys a minute on this one. Yeah, this one was a tricky one, but I'm not like a super duper fan, so I knew this. And he says I'm stealing Sean's answer now. The Elliots. Gonna give it another minute. WD says I can't read that one out loud. WD says I know Bill and Brian Doyle Murray. Who was the third one? Oh, that would give the game away, wouldn't it? Sean, you got it. Okay, Sean has actually explained it. All of them have had family members. The Belushis, Jim was on as well as John. Aykroyd's Peter, his son, was on it. The Murrays, I know a lot of people are going to guess the Murrays, but it was actually Brian and Bill are brothers, and so there was only one generation there. The correct answer is the Elliots. Chris was on for one season. His daughter Abby was on for 4, and their father Bob Elliott was of the very famous comedy duo Bob and Ray, and they featured as the comedy guest often in the 70s. So it was the Elliots who had 3 generations of family members on the show. And now we shall get some SCOAs. Scott is number 7 is D. Oh, let me just check. I actually don't know off the top of my head. Oh no, 7 was B. 7 was Chris Rocket. Zublix is 4 for 5. Watch is 5 for 5. Emily Miller is 1 of 2. Sean Nunes is 5 for 5. And now everything will go to hell. I'll give you some more credit. Tracy is 2 of 5. Cindy D says, good question, Thrash. Thank you, Cindy. Melissa is 3 of 5. Dominic D is 4 of 5. Justin is 2 of 5. Gary Carpenter is a conscious objector. You can play in replay if you want. Or just gonna, I'm glad you're hanging out. Lisa Fields is 4 of 5. Cindy D is 4 for 5. Harold the Hatter. Scott is, question 6 is C. I should probably stack these in an order where I can go back to them in a more coherent fashion. No, 6 was D. The Elliots. The Elliots were the family that had 3 generations. And he says, Chris Elliott used to say my father was in the comedy duo Bob and Ray. I forgot which one. So far, so good. Oh, that's actually very funny. Watch me, will be right back. Let's give him a second before we start the second half. A lot of people saying hi to Scott. Emily says, now you chime in, and D. And Denny says, I ate so much spaghetti, I cannot concentrate. Yes, we gorged ourselves at lunch today, too, by the way. And Teb says, 5 for 5. By the way, Peter Aykroyd was Dan's brother, not son. Peter passed away a couple of years ago. Thank you. What was Dan Aykroyd's son's name? And I'm guessing that he wasn't on SNL, but I know he did have a son. And I thought his son was in the entertainment industry. I didn't read. I only found that out because I was doing some research, and it showed that his Peter was in there as well. And for some reason, I had it stuck in my head Peter was the son. But thank you. But thankfully, that doesn't alter the answer. But thank you for passing that on. And John says, my score is bullshit while John Sinclair rots in prison. Wow. That's a good line. My score is bullshit while John Sinclair rots in prison. That's like something out of a Joan Baez song. And Scott says, okay, my score is 1 of 5. Ouch. Sorry, dude. And then but now he's caught up. Now he's caught up. And while you continue to catch up, I am parched. So I'm going to have more of my Polar Pop. And Gary Carpenter says, I used to think that Keen and Ed Wynn were brothers, but I never knew they were father and son. Yeah, I can see that. I knew they were father and son, but I can certainly see that. And number one dude says, Ray stands. Another says, what is tonight's theme, by the way? So far, we don't have one. We're just doing a random Michigots. Indy says, Aykroyd doesn't have a son. He doesn't? Huh. I could have sworn he had a son. Again, it doesn't really affect the game, but I could have sworn he had a son with Donna Dixon. Donna Dixon. And Tagasu says, hey, you guys. You're just in time for the second half of the trivia. Oh, by the way, to you and Scott, I am so sorry that I missed the part 3 of Disaster Films, by the way. But, my mother only has so many birthdays. I don't want to say the number. She only has so many blank number. But I want to say the number of birthdays because I won't give the game away. All right, let's pretend it's her 30th. It's my mother's only 30th birthday, so I had to take her out to lunch with Mrs. Thrash. Justin Brandwood says it was a Woodstock quote. Thrash. Was it said by Joan Baez? Was she at Woodstock? I was very young at the time. I was only like 2-ish. That sounded similar. That I can hear it. Yes, I can. It sounds very John Steinbeck-esque, which a lot of the radicals were quoting at the time. And Tug says YouTube didn't notify me again. Thank Harold for reminding me. Actually, I forgot to put up which I will never do again because apparently a whole grillion of you. I didn't post anything in my community page. I forgot. And apparently that's how most of you know I'm going on. So I apologize. And he says to Tug, I see you dropped the new video about Ezra Miller, them. Ooh, them. And Tracy says me either, Tug. Yeah, none of you got it because I didn't send it. So you're in very, very good company. Cindy says 30 and counting. Thrash. Yeah, but we stopped counting. I stopped counting at 32. In my opinion, birthdays. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't enjoyed my life, but birthdays stopped being fun around 22. You know why I love 22? I was a year up on all the 21-year-olds who thought they were hot shit. After 22, the numbers just become progressively larger. Tuck says, that's fine, Thrash. We decided to have part 4. Good. That will compensate. And Gary says, can you believe that Clint Eastwood is 94? No, I cannot. And Scott is shouting out to a whole mess of people. And Dude is shouting out back to Scott, as is Tracy and Emily and Cindy. And Gary says, I was wondering if you were even going on tonight. Yeah, I'm sorry. Guys, I shan't do that again. I shall always remember to give a post to my community page from now on. And Melissa says, happy birthday to Mama Thrash. Oh, thank you. And Denny says, always giving us another link. And Indy says, the way I knew about this was that it's always at 7:30 on Sundays, and my brain works. Now, Indy. I mean, in Indy's defense, yes, 7:30 on Sundays is pretty much my etched in stone time, but that was a little pedantic the way you phrased that. Justin says it's more unbelievable that Eastwood hasn't had a movie with Sandra Locke or Pat Hingle in 40 years. Yeah, yeah, or Joffrey, oh, Jeffrey, whatever his name is. Oh, Tug says happy birthday, Mama Thresh. Indy's Belt says I miss Pat Hingle. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Um, you guys know Jeffrey. He was the bad guy in Night of the Comet. He was in all those Clint Eastwood movies. He was in that very short-lived Alice spinoff, Flow. And Scott says, I sent you the list of movies that we talked about so you can make sure you are up to date. Thank you very much, Scott. And Zublik says, have you noticed that prime Olympic athletes reach their prime in their 20s? Yeah. And WD says, anybody know how old Sandra Locke is? I'd say 70. And Gary says, Sandra Locke is dead, I think. Ooh, I think she died a couple years ago. Now that you mentioned, yes, I think she is. And Sean says, or a movie with an orangutan. Jeff Lewis. God, thank you. Yes, it was killing me. Jeffrey Lewis, Juliette Lewis's dad. You know, it's funny too because if I'd said Juliette Lewis's dad, that would have probably given the game away. But yes, thank you. And yes, the orangutan and breakfast cereals and skip a bit, brother. Oh, look, we're gonna start the Holy Grail up all over again. And Zublik says, yes, Sandra Locke has passed away. And she died a while ago, now that you mention it. Sean said. Thank you, Sean. And Tug says to Indy, I didn't get it for a few seconds. Oh, that's what you were saying. Pat Hingle and Sandra Locke are no longer with us. Ding! Bob's feeble mind kicks into gear. Gary says, I thought so. Dominic didn't know. Emily says, hey, Danny, if you're interested, my son-in-law does hand-cut metal Bigfoot thingies. He has one in a tattered American flag. That's really cool. Yeah, Danny, if you're on Facebook, there's some great posts about it, by the way. They look really, really cool. And Justin said, yes, Lewis. And Indy says, your goddamn baboon keeps eating my goddamn Oreos. Get your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty baboon. And Melissa says, I think that Sandra Locke passed away 5 years ago. Hasn't been that many? I believe it. And Sean says, Juliette Lewis's father. She certainly was. She certainly was. Oh, he certainly was her father. You know what I meant. And Gary Carpenter says, Indy, watch your mouth, please. And he says to Gary Carpenter, take it up with Ruth Gordon. It's her line. Love Ruth Gordon, who's also no longer with us. Love Ruth Gordon. She was from Lawrence, Massachusetts, Methuen, Massachusetts. One of those upstates where if you go like 5 more miles, you're in New Hampshire. Poor things. Ooh, that's right. I went there. Although I got to tell you my favorite New England joke. Why does Maine border only one other U.S. state? Because New England drew straws and New Hampshire lost. I never did get around to giving the last 5 questions, did I? Oh, well, wait for Watch Mean to come back, and then we will start. Melissa Foster says, Geoffrey Lewis also played Charlie, the brother who had multiple personalities in the failed pilot of Empty Nest episode on the Golden Girls. That's a great trivia question. He plays mentally unstable really, really well. And Sean says, Ruth Gordon, I miss her. Yes. Ruth Gordon was Harold and Maude. Yes, I loved Harold and Maude. One of my favorite movies. Ew, I know, but it's one of my favorite movies. And Tracy also likes Harold and Maude. And Justin says Jeffrey Lewis was also in Mama's Family early episodes too, that I don't recall. Apparently, everybody loved Harold and Maude. And Emily says, is there any way I could send you pics of his stuff if you're interested? Yeah, Danny. If you're on Facebook, that's the best way. Shauna says, Rosemary Baby, my bodyguard, Where's Papa? She was in Rosemary's Baby. I always forget that because it's not a comedy. And Tug says, by the way, for those who witnessed my brief debate with Danny, he was mostly right. That's the closest to an apology my brand will allow. And Danny says, Danny Staten, P.O. Box 144, Pelser, South Carolina, 29669. And oh, look who's here! Chance of the Pod Blast is here. It says, hi, you all. Hey, so glad you could make it, Chance. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome to the party. Sorry, I didn't put up a community page, which is why no one got the message. Emily says, Tug, you never have to apologize when you're always right. Oh, and What You Mean is back. Hey, What You Mean is back. And so I think I'm just going to kick in. Justin says, I knew this would come full circle. The actor in Rosemary's Baby was in The Fury. Very good, Sean. Give yourself a silver star for the day. And now that What You Mean is back, we shall continue with the last 5 questions. Number 5. The longest continuous cast member of the SNL cast is what performer? A. Seth Meyers, B. Kenan Thompson, C. Kate McKinnon, or D. Chevy Chase? I shall repeat. The longest continuous cast member of the SNL cast is what performer? A. Seth Meyers, B. Kate McKinnon. I'm sorry. A. Seth Meyers, B. Kenan Thompson. B is Kenan Thompson. C is Kate McKinnon, or D is Chevy Chase. So if you want to say Kevin Thompson, don't blame. I apologize if I messed you up. And we are getting a Don Pardo. Not one of the selections, but Chance says Kenan is not very funny. He does a college professor, which is the funniest thing, in my opinion, that he does. It's really cool. It's like one of those like local channel TV shows, and he does bits where he's like, when my wife asked me what I thought she learned from looking at herself in the full-length mirror, I said acceptance. Worst anniversary ever. He does stuff like that, and it's actually, I think, very funny. But to own, they're each. But anywho, Andy Kaufman. We're going for the ironic answers, apparently. That's the right answer. B. Kenan Thompson is, in fact, the right answer. Been on for 21 years, I want to say. I wrote down my original notes, but it's actually the most, yeah. And Sean says that skit he has as the host of the show, and Hader plays Lindsey Buckingham, and what's his name in the background dancer? Love that. Not sure, but it's probably on YouTube. Cindy says I like his Jeopardy parodies. I love Jeopardy. Oh, and Black Jeopardy. Black Jeopardy is like one of the funniest bits that they ever did. I can't for the life of me decide which one is funnier. I love the one with Tom Hanks, but I think the one with Chadwick Boseman is probably the funniest. Where he talks about the you bring the low sodium potato salad with raisins. Yes, you get it. Anyway, the answer is, of course, Kenan. Number 4. According to Chevy Chase, this is from him directly. According to Chevy Chase, the reason he left the series after the first season was A, he was fired. B, to get his own TV show. C, it was over a long distance relationship he was having at the time. Or D, medical reasons. I shall repeat. According to Chevy Chase, the reason he left the series after the first season was A, he was fired, B, to get his own show, C, a long distance relationship he was having at the time, or D, medical reasons. Uh-oh. That was a good one there, and it disappeared. Oh, he retracted it. There was something about a jellyfish there, Justin, which looked funny, so please repeat. Teb says, "I've been a fan of Keenan Thompson since his days on Nickelodeon." Oh, yeah, Keenan and Kel. Keenan and Kel was a great show. My daughter loved Good Booger when she was a kid. Cindy says he kept falling down. And then he says he wanted to be a big movie star, is what he always heard. He went to Hollywood. John said, falling down, lol. Um, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. Live from New York. Uh, did he actually hurt himself doing Ford? I believe it. I believe it. Um, well, that's why I said medical reasons. So, but actually, he was in a long distance relationship, which later failed. And he's actually said sometimes he's wondered if he made the right decision. But yeah, he was dating a woman in California who refused to move to New York for her career, so he went to L.A. and hilarity ensued. Number three, prior to amusing us with her Hillary Clinton impression, Amy Poehler was on this short-lived sketch comedy show. Lost my bass. Can you hear me okay? Oh, Indy Spout says the writing to Indy says Chance says to Indy, the writing is not great on us in all these days where are the Biden jokes. He's great living material. Oh, and yes, people are kicking in. Actually, I didn't even give the selections. A, the Upright Citizens Brigade. B, the Ben Stiller Show. C, the State, or D, the Edge. And please tell me you can hear me okay. Hear you loud and clear. Good, because I lost the bass, so I have to kind of balance the speaker on this box of coronavirus-based rubber gloves. Prior to amusing us with her Hillary Clinton impression, Amy Poehler was on this short-lived sketch comedy show. A, the Upright Citizens Brigade. B, the Ben Stiller Show. C, the State, or D, the Edge. Number two says you got that right, Pod. Oh, look who's here! John Doe's here. Just got back. What's up? We are just in time to make the last portion of the trivia game, and then we're just doing a general Q&A tonight, mostly talking about SNL and Monty Python. Denny says, dog bark, missed that last answer. Drat. Well, I haven't given the answer yet. Cindy says, all about Thrash's bass, no treble. You know, they call me Antacid because I'm all about the bass. About the bass. You know, she's from Cape Cod, you know. Yeah, yeah. So is Saban Magnuson. Tug says, sure, blame COVID to cover up your serial killer gloves. Ixnay on the serial killers say. Pablo says, Poehler, I hardly even knew her. No, that's called Poehler. She too is from Massachusetts, by the way. Newton, which is a wicked uppity money town, but I'm not going to get into that. Justin says the Edge is a crappy guitarist. Ooh, Justin, you were on fire tonight. Wow. I can't hear you. Good, thank you, Melissa. Emily says everybody's saying A, so who am I to argue? And he says Ben Stiller's show was pretty solid. I loved the Ben Stiller show. In fact, the Ben Stiller show was canceled to make room for the Edge, which I thought was good, but kind of formula. I thought the Ben Stiller show with his parodies was absolutely amazing. True story. One year, this is back when Sell Through Media actually still existed. My wife went to a place, Newbury Comics. I don't know if you guys have them in your area. It actually started at Newbury Street in Boston, very trendy comic book store, but they carried videos. She went to one and said, I need this box set for my husband. It was a short-lived sketch comedy show. It starred Ben Stiller. I don't know the name. And the clerk, trying not to laugh, goes, the Ben Stiller show? Yes, that's it. Oh, look who's glowering at me. It was very thoughtful of you, and I still watch it to this day. But yes, The answer is Spock. Good one, Sean. Sean says his Tom Cruise impression was good. James Doohan appeared on Stiller's show. Cracked me up. That was a great episode. And I understand, from what I understand, that was all ad-libbed, which is funny because Ben Stiller doesn't do a lot of ad-libbing. He's very, very scripted. But apparently James Doohan was more comfortable ad-libbing. I mean, they knew the bit they were going to do, where basically Ben Stiller was going to be a fanboy the whole time, but the interaction itself was ad-libbed. So I always thought that was very organic. But yeah, like I said, I still watch it from time to time. But anyway, I almost gave the wrong answer out because I already have the Upright Citizens Brigade, which is actually a surprisingly funny show in my opinion, and I thought she was great at it as the sort of socially awkward mad scientist type. Number 2, according to Rotten Tomatoes, which of these SNL themed films ranked the highest? Now that's of these selection, not of all time, just out of these. Which is highest out of this? A, Night at the Roxbury. B, Blues Brothers 2000. C, Ladies Man Part 2. Or D, Superstar. And I'm not going to say it the way she did it. I thought that was obnoxious. That was like the most obnoxious recurring character SNL ever did, with the possible exception of the cheerleaders. I hated the cheerleaders bits. But Superstar was by far the most obnoxious. But I digress. I shall repeat. According to Rotten Tomatoes, which of these SNL themed films ranked the highest? A, Night at the Roxbury. B, Blues Brothers 2000. C, Ladies Man Part 2. Or D, Superstar. Ooh, lots of people going with Superstar. Gary Carpenter's hedging his bets and saying A to Z. Scott said Ben Stiller's problem is went full R word. Can't do that and expect an Oscar. I believe I'm picking up what you're laying down. Sean says, where is building models with Doohan? And Stiller makes a Klingon ship and Doohan slaps it. Zublik says, so what's the answer? Oh, yes, I believe I answered that. And John Doe said, do you remember Ben Stiller failed TV show Heat, Vision, and Jack? No, I don't recall that one. And Wayne's World. Yeah. Good movie, not one of the selections. And then he says, wow, which of these Bond villains is the most evil? I know, right? Ooh, very, very good. Oh, Dominic says the cheerleaders were horrible. Very, very good analogy. Very good analogy. So he says, I agree with Thrash. I didn't like Hans and Franz. Um, they was just the same joke. It's just I am Hans, I am Franz. Although the one they did, the episode they did with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I thought was kind of cute. But anyway, in this case, Doug says, say what you want about BB 2000, but having that dream band in the end makes it all worth it. To own their each. Tug, I would never think of gainsaying you. But in my opinion, Blues Brothers 2000 was so bad, it actually tarnished my love of the original Blues Brothers. This is kind of going into the Billy Madison scene. Everyone in this audience is dumber for having seen Blues Brothers 2000. I award it no points, and may God have mercy on their soul. And the answer, believe it or not, is Blues Brothers 2000. Yes. Blues Brothers 2000 had a Rotten Tomatoes of 46%, which puts it, I don't think Superstar even registered. But the closest was Night at the Roxbury was 11%. And another one I think was like 8. But yes, Sean says, I never saw Blues Brothers 2000. I couldn't. I'm with you. Tug says, I don't disagree, but I stand by what I said. You know, free country for the moment. And I gotta get. I did approve of the old college try. God knows Dan Aykroyd tried. Lord knows he tried. It just it failed. I'm sorry. And the number one question is this wild and crazy guy is Mama Thrash's favorite recurring host. Yes, I had to throw a Mama Thrash question in the mix for her birthday. Was it A, Tom Hanks, B, Alec Baldwin, C, Chevy Chase, or D, Steve Martin? And I shall repeat this wild and crazy guy is Mama Thrash's favorite recurring SNL host. Was it A, Tom Hanks, B, Alec Baldwin, C, Chevy Chase, or D, Steve Martin? And I think either a lot of you people are really, really good guessers, or my little hint gave it away. Gary says, what was Dan Aykroyd doing in the video We Are the World? That's an excellent question. I had forgotten he was in it. I believe it, but I had forgotten. I always hated that song. We are the world. We are, and it's like so many of my friends were these sort of like 80s hippies. And it's funny because I wasn't. And they're like, oh, you have to do this great song. Is it We Are the World? Yeah, I've heard it. Buddy of mine and I, we came up with a little parody of it, which was far less inspiring. Sydney says, it's Mama Thrash. Yes, it is. That doesn't says pretending to sing. I'm not even trying to pretend. Tug says, loved him in Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I was hoping, I almost wrote that into the question too, by the way. I figured I could do a hint and a Godzilla shout out. But I thought it was a little too on the nose. But yes, the answer is Steve Martin. And by an astonishing coincidence, Raymond Burr's character in that movie is Martin, Steve Martin. And it's just so funny because it's almost like a drinking game. But yes, it is Steve Martin, D. Says, I loved the Hanukkah Harry sketch with John Lovitz. Why can't I place that? Oh, Denny says you should. Gave this jerk is he wasn't the jerk. Yes, love that movie too. Scott says cannabis to Gary Carpenter. Wajimine says my favorite SNL movie is the Wayne's World 1 and 2. I don't even think I even saw the second one. I did like the first one. I don't think I saw the second one. You're like Harold. Cindy D says you could sing it today. We are the world. We are the. We couldn't we? Justin says we're stars by Here and Aid was a better project competing with We Are the World. Hearing Aid, love it. I'm not familiar with it, but I take your word for it. Oh, Scott says, was that what Dan Aykroyd was doing? I get it. He was partaking in the ganja. And Zublix is giving us scores. He has a 6 for 9. And John Doses Heat Vision and Jack starred Jack Black as an astronaut that's super smart at night, a dummy in the day, and Owen Wilson as an experimental talking motorcycle that was originally Jack Black's best friend. Never saw it. And yeah, let's get some scores here, people, please. Gary says, Cindy, it's still a great song if you don't like it. Tim says 9 of 10. And apologies to anybody who didn't like We Are the World. I don't know why I'm so confrontational tonight. But yes, I've done all these things that I don't like. If you guys like them, again, free country. Sorry to be that guy. Texas, I like to imagine Raymond Burr, Steve Martin doing sketch comedy with Halloween's Michael Myers. Ooh, that is good. That is good. What do you mean it's 10 for 10? Dennis Dayton is Coneheads. Tracy says Blues Brothers. Damien's here. It says funny to talk. Damien, so glad you could make it, my man. Sean is 9 for 10. C. It all went to hell with a 9 out of 10 is still a pretty good score. Tug says sup D-Man. Gary says I don't like Coneheads or Blues Brothers. Tug is 4 for 5. Harold is 5 for 10. Justin says same. Gary said he says no. I love We Are the World. Gary Carpenter. A lot of people did. Dominic D is 8 for 10. Justin is 5 for 10. Gary Cameron is 3 of 5. Cindy D is 8 for 10. Gary says, I love We Are the World. Forgive me if I stopped on your toesy woesies. Melissa says, my favorite SNL movie was The Blues Brothers Run a Mission from Gad. Yeah, I love the Blues Brothers movie. Damien says, missed you today. Say HB to your mama. I will tell her happy birthday. Thank you so much, Damien. Very, very kind of you. And sorry I missed it. Cindy says, check your ego at the door. Quincy Jones at We Are the World. He did run a tight ship. I will grant you that. Even though it was my cup of tea, he did run a very, very tight ship. Tug says most SNL movies fail because they're based on a single joke. The original Blues Brothers made it work, but that's the exception, not the rule. Yeah, no kidding. You're right. Couldn't agree more. John Doe says it got canceled after the first episode, but Fox said it was their mistake, but it was too late to bring it back. That happens a lot, actually. That happened to the Boston comic, Lenny Clark. Lenny Clark had his own short-lived sitcom, and apparently it was very funny. But it premiered during First Gulf, so everybody was watching CNN, and it got canceled quickly. And they realized afterwards they probably should have given it another shot. Emily says, "I think I got 3 right out of however many I was there for." Well, that's good. Gary Cameron says you're correct. T. Melissa says 4 for 10. Need to reacquaint myself with SNL. John Doe says, remember Hands Across the Land? I forgot what it was for. Hands Across America. It was for some huge charity. I'm not entirely sure. I know Farm Aid was, of course, for the farmers. I think it was Urban Poor was Hands Across America. As it says, favorite SNL related movie was Wayne's World. That's a good one. Justin says Boston Common. What's in common with Boston? Doug says, I do love Wayne's World. Emily says, John, I think somebody in here actually participated in that. Really? That is very, very cool. What do you mean is BRB? If we're still here, great. In fact, as I look at the time, it's getting towards that time, folks, where we'll probably be wrapping up. Though we actually have more people now than we did an hour ago. Well, and we all know why. Guilty as charged. But we will probably be wrapping things up very shortly. Gary says the Muppets was on the first SNL. They did a lot that first season. And they were actually very funny. Sean says Blues Brothers had a pretty killer soundtrack. I had discovered Sam and Dave just before that, and I was pretty hyped. I'm astonished that they cut the Lee J. Hooker song. Apparently, in the movie, it was supposed to be a whole song they did, and that was cut. But of course, I loved Sid the Bismarck. I thought they did an amazing Sid the Big Mark. Oh, and it was. Cindy says it was Hunger. Thank you, Cindy. WD says Wayne's World was a great movie. It certainly was. Gary Cameron says, I loved Hands Across America. I remember that one vividly. And Tug says, if I'm not mistaken, Harry Anderson was also a guest on the first episode doing his magic death, wasn't he? Yes, he actually did a number of. They used to have guest. They used to have guest comedians because he was a comedian musician. Guest comedians. Joel from MST3K, Joel Hoskins, was on a few times. He was a prop comic, and he had this gurney from like an old style hospital, and he would just randomly pull things out of it and do a shtick with them. But yes, you are correct. Damien says, love Wayne's World, party time, excellent. And he says, Hands Across America was for homelessness. Okay, homelessness. Dominic says, if you call Animal House on SNL movie, that was my favorite. I don't think they ever did any bits that were based on Animal House. Professor I went to college with knew the guys who wrote it. He went to was it UNH? Some university in New Hampshire. Justin says deal. Love it. Oh, and people are saying good night. Yes, and good night to you guys as well, by the way. John Doe says nama nama nam. Anama nam. Anama nam. A lot of people saying good nights to each other and good nights to me and good nights to you all as well. Emily says, not exactly my kind of comedy. Melissa says, Sean, there was a lot of talent in the Blues Brothers. Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles, certainly. Yes, there was a lot of talent. And Dominic D says, great live stream tonight, Bob. Thanks. Have a great night, all. For those of you guys who got here late because I didn't give a message, please, please, please. I'm terribly sorry. I'm so glad you got here. I'm very glad everyone got here and have a great night. Tug says I wasn't confident about my facts. Zuber, thanks. Oh, and Zuber says Harry Anderson wasn't the first episode. First season. First season, I think I was thinking. First season, maybe? Wasn't the first anyway. No, the guest comedian wasn't the first episode. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, the first guest comedian they had was Andy Kaufman. Here I come to save the day. And Sean says my former neighbor appears in Wayne's World for a second when Dana Carvey is unconscious on the floor at the dance hall. She is the first woman to step over him. She also doubled as one on the rider's feet. That's excellent. A lot of people saying hello to Mama Thrash, and I want to thank you. A lot of people thanking me for the trivia. You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. John says, when does De Palma open tomorrow? We're closed on Mondays. We're closed on Mondays. We open up on Tuesday at 4, but I don't go back to work until Wednesday. But thank you for asking. Tracy says, good night, everybody. Have a happy birthday. Mom, thank you so much. Cindy says, thanks always, Thrash. Oh, you're so welcome. A lot of people say good night to one another. John Doe says, when are you going to do Spock trivia? You know what? Heck with it. I'm going to do Spock next week. Spock trivia. I don't have a pen, so people remind me. But Spock trivia next week. And Mystery Men and Monsters is here. Says good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are. Mystery Men and Monsters, good night to you as well, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us. Saw you the other day, too, by the way. Great stuff. Don't be such a stranger. And glad you could make it for these final moments. And somebody says, I know the first host was George Carlin. Yes, definitely. And the first guest singer was Janice Ian. That I don't recall. I'm sure you're right. And Gary Cameron says, don't forget to come back next weekend. And don't forget to have your add-on. No. Oh, John says question A is going to be Spock. Yes, all the answers is going to be Spock. No, I will definitely post on my community page for next week to remind you folks. It's going to be 7:30 on Sunday. And Zubik says, we learn the truth at 17. Oh. And Dominic D says, is Janice Ian still alive? I remember her hit at 17. And Emily says, not fair. John had a cheat sheet. Anyway, guys, again, everyone, Zubik says she's alive. Good. Anyway, guys, until next week, be good, be safe, be careful. And I want to thank you guys for all being here tonight. I had so much fun. I always have fun doing these. Glad you liked the trivia. Sorry some of you got here late, but I'm glad everybody here made it. But anyway, guys, take care of yourself. Have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.